I still remember the exact moment I realized my own parents had erased me from their lives. It wasn't when they missed my high school graduation. It wasn't even when they forgot my 25th birthday. No, it was the morning of my wedding day. The day I had dreamed about since I was a little girl. The day I stood in a soft ivory gown, heart racing, staring at my phone with tears blurring my vision, waiting for a message that never came. My name is Alina, and this is the story of how my parents ignored my wedding, and how the sight of my $135,000 Porsche finally forced them to remember that I existed. I grew up in a beautiful house on the hill, the kind people drive past and whisper about. My father was a successful businessman, always in suits, always on calls. My mother was the perfect socialite, charity lunches, perfectly curled hair, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. To the outside world, we were the ideal family. Behind closed doors, I was an accessory, a prop, something to be shown off when it was convenient and ignored when it wasn't. I was never abused. That would have been simpler. No, what they did was quieter, colder. They provided everything money could buy and nothing my heart actually needed. Love was always conditional. Good grades, affection. Perfect behavior, attention. Any sign of independence, silence. When I met Daniel, everything changed. He wasn't from our world. He worked with his hands, ran his own small construction company, and looked at me like I was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen. Not for what I could offer, but simply for who I was. We dated for 3 years. I introduced him to my parents after 1 year. The dinner was polite ice. My father barely looked at him. My mother smiled that plastic smile and later pulled me aside. Alina, darling, he's nice. But nice won't maintain the life you're used to. I told them I didn't want the life I was used to. I wanted a real one. When we got engaged, I was over the moon. I sent my mother pictures of rings, venues, dresses. She replied with short messages. Lovely. Nice choice. My father didn't reply at all. Still, I held on to hope. I sent them the formal invitation 6 weeks in advance. I called, I texted. I even drove to their house one evening and sat on their porch like I was 10 years old again, begging them to come. My mother opened the door, looked at me with tired eyes, and said, "We'll see, sweetheart. Your father has a big merger happening that month." That was the last real conversation we had before the wedding. The week before the big day, I cried in Daniel's arms every night. He kept telling me it was their loss, that our love was enough. I wanted to believe him. But a little girl who never felt truly wanted still hoped her parents would show up for her once, just once, wedding morning. The venue was breathtaking. A garden overlooking the lake, fairy lights, white roses everywhere. My best friend helped me into my dress while I kept checking my phone. Nothing. No call. No text. No, we're on our way. I walked down the aisle with tears in my eyes, not from sadness alone, but from a strange mix of joy and devastating emptiness. Daniel looked at me like I was his entire universe. When he said, "I do," my heart healed a little. But the 2 empty reserved seats in the front row haunted me the entire ceremony. That night, as we danced under the stars, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never beg for love again. Little did I know, that promise would be tested in ways I could never imagine. The first year of marriage was beautiful and brutally hard. We had no financial help from my family. When I told my parents we were getting married without them, they simply stopped speaking to me. No anger. No dramatic fight, just silence. The same silence I grew up with when I disappointed them. Daniel and I lived in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment. I took a job at a marketing firm while he grew his construction business. Some nights we ate ramen and laughed about it. Other nights I cried in the shower because I missed the idea of a family that never really existed. 2 years in, I found out I was pregnant. We were overjoyed. I called my mother with shaking hands. "Mom, I'm pregnant. You're going to be grandparents." There was a long pause. "That's nice, Alina. Take care of yourself." Click. She didn't ask about the due date. She didn't ask how I was feeling. Nothing. The betrayal cut deeper than the wedding. This wasn't about me anymore. This was about their future grandchild, and still nothing. I threw myself into work. I discovered I had a natural talent for digital marketing and brand strategy. I started taking on freelance clients in the evenings. Within a year, I had built a small but profitable agency. Daniel's business grew too. He landed bigger contracts, hired employees, and became known for honest, high-quality work. We moved into a modest but beautiful home. I gave birth to our daughter, Sophia, and she became my whole world. Every milestone, every first smile, every tiny hand gripping my finger reminded me that I was building the family I never had. But the ache never fully left. On Sophia's first birthday, I sent my parents photos. No response. On Christmas, I invited them. They said they were busy. Year after year, the silence continued. It felt worse than hatred. It felt like I had died to them and they had simply moved on. The turning point came during our 4th year of marriage. I landed a major contract with a luxury real estate developer. The campaign I created went viral. Suddenly, bigger clients were calling. Money started flowing in ways I had never experienced on my own. For the first time, I tasted real independence. Daniel surprised me one evening. "Babe, you've worked so hard. When the next big payment clears, I want you to buy something for yourself. Something that makes you feel powerful." I laughed at first, but the idea stayed with me. Months later, after closing the biggest deal of my career, I walked into the Porsche dealership. I didn't go there planning to buy. But when I sat in that sleek, midnight black Cayenne Turbo, something shifted inside me. It wasn't about showing off. It was about proving to myself that I had survived without them. I paid cash. When I drove it home, Daniel stood in the driveway with tears in his eyes. Sophia clapped her hands and called it Mommy's shiny car. That should have been enough, but life has a way of forcing old wounds open. My parents still lived in the same big house on the hill, and somehow, word traveled. 3 weeks after I bought the Porsche, I received a text from my mother. "Alina, we heard you've been doing well. Your father and I would love to see you and the family. Maybe brunch this Sunday." I stared at the message for 20 minutes. After 4 years of silence, through my wedding, my pregnancy, my daughter's birth, now they wanted brunch. I almost said no, but something in me needed closure. We agreed to meet at an upscale restaurant overlooking the city. I dressed carefully, elegant but not trying too hard. When I pulled up in the Porsche, I saw them standing near the entrance. My father's eyes widened. My mother actually took a step back. I stepped out of the car, calm and composed. Sophia ran to me in her pretty dress. Daniel stood tall beside me. My mother recovered first, forcing a bright smile. "Alina, that car, it's beautiful." Father couldn't stop staring. "How?" I looked them both in the eyes and spoke words I had rehearsed in my heart for years. "This car didn't come from you. It didn't come from your money or your approval. It came from late nights, tears, and believing in myself when my own parents didn't. You missed my wedding. You missed your granddaughter's birth. You missed 4 years of our lives. And now you see a nice car and suddenly remember I exist." My mother's eyes filled with tears, real ones for once. "We thought you were making a mistake." You thought I needed you more than I needed respect," I said quietly. "You were wrong." Father looked smaller than I had ever seen him. The powerful businessman reduced to silence by his daughter's success. We had brunch. It was polite, awkward. They tried to connect with Sophia, who was shy around these strangers. I watched them carefully. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me felt pity. In the parking lot, as we were leaving, my mother hugged me stiff, uncertain. "Sorry," she whispered. "We were wrong." I pulled back gently. "I forgive you. But I will never forget how it felt to stand alone on the most important day of my life. I hope you remember that every time you see this car." I drove away with my husband and daughter, the engine purring smoothly beneath me. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't tears of pain anymore. They were tears of release. I didn't cut them off completely. We see them occasionally now, but the power dynamic has forever changed. I no longer need their love. I have built my own. If you're watching this and your family has made you feel invisible, please hear me. Your worth is not decided by those who should love you unconditionally. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming so successful, so at peace, that their absence no longer destroys you. I bought that Porsche not to show off, but to remind myself every single day that I survived, that I thrived, that I chose love and built a real family. And if my parents ever forget again, all they have to do is look for the woman driving the black Porsche who no longer waits for their approval. She's finally free.